if that little bit more money means that my books are going to come back quicker, then hallelujah.
Hey, yo! I'll play somebody else for a day. How you doing there?
I was good to go and ready to go. I'm about to spit my drink out when that came up. I was ready for the music, and then
if it means my books come back quicker,
then hallelujah.
Oh, it seems like forever, my friend. Well, it's only been 2 weeks. A lot of time in between, a lot of activities, obviously in the community. And let's just kick this thing off. I know there's been a lot of Spider-Man shows already talking about it because it's a kind of a big deal in the community, obviously. But we're gonna try to do a spoiler-free, at least the first half of the show. So if you're thinking about tuning in right now, please, or you're here right now, our good friend Chop and Drop, understand that the first will be spoiler-free. We will sound the klaxon and put out the warning when we get to the second half of the show and we start to go into the spoiler realm. Caveat being, in the spoiler-free section of the show, we'd like to ask you who are in the chat to also please respect the spoiler-free talk at that point in time and not engage in spoiler discussions in the live chat during this time. And the other caveat being, the stuff that was in the publicly released trailers is fair game, is not considered a spoiler. Yep. Okay. So having said all that, Southern Comic Geek, thanks for joining us here today.
What's up, sir?
Jason, coming into this, expectations, Spider-Man Far From Home, our third in our series of Spider-Man films in the MCU.
It wasn't as high as it should have probably been, because like I was telling you earlier before the show, like the first one in this series of Spider-Man, I thought was like one of the better MCU movies, period. And then obviously, Infinity War and Endgame came out, and that kind of ended that right there. But I didn't have high expectations, but honestly, it exceeded my expectations.
Hey, James, you're welcome to stick around, brother. We're doing spoiler-free discussions. I mean, you're also welcome to leave right now for at least the first half of the show. We will sound the klaxon before we get to spoilers. So by all means, we're just going to give some general talk, nothing more than what's been released in trailers for this portion of the show here. So just so you know. All right, sorry, go ahead. So yes. Expectations weren't as high as you thought, maybe because the first movie was so good in your mind.
It was really good, and then the second movie was all right. And then, in between there, the Venom movies came out, and then, then like when the movie started initially too, Sony came across the screen instead of Marvel. I was like, oh no.
It was a rather heavy Sony branded film.
It was huge. It was like, boom, here we are.
Even the end.
It waited a minute before Marvel even came up there.
Yeah, even the end when you're waiting for the post-credit scenes. That's all I'm spoiling right now, is that there are post-credit scenes. Now you know to stick around. That there was Sony this, Sony that, Columbia Pictures this. It was very much part of their agreement. You could tell that they get some credit here, even though obviously based on what I thought the quality of the film overall was, it was obviously not a Sony film.
No. Much better than, the previous Sony films, like, your Venom, your Fantastic Four. This, in my opinion, even though it had the giant Sony logo on there, this was an MCU movie, hands down.
Yeah, I would say my expectations coming in were somewhat tempered as well. Spider-Man is my guy. I love that, but I knew that there was a lot to start to unpack. We're starting into this new section of the MCU where we're going. We wrapped everything up with Endgame, everything else, and now we're in this process, much like Eternals, of setting the groundwork. and laying out a lot of Easter eggs to come back to later on in other movies. And so when we start to get the way that Marvel does these interconnected movies, to come back to it and go, that was why that was there, or that makes sense now, right? And so I expected a lot of that. And so coming into it, I was expecting to be entertained. I was sure there was going to be plenty of action, but we had to establish the concept of the multiverse here. Although it had started to be kind of teased in some of the What If stuff and the Loki series, kind of
even with the Into the Spider-Verse, the cartoon movie.
Correct. Right. So we've had some of those pieces into here, but we have to start to establish that now within the MCU movies and start to bring in some of that. So knowing that, was expecting to see some of that. I probably came in with middle expectations of it being, a good movie, but that's about it. Having said that, did we fail? Did we meet, or did we exceed what your expectations were coming into the movie?
Honestly, like I said, I seen it yesterday, and I'm doing the review today, obviously. And it took, when I left the theater, I'm one of those people that, after I leave a movie, unless it just blew my mind and it was so good, I nitpick at it a little bit on the way home. That's the kind of movie goer I am. I nitpick a little bit on the way home, and then I stew on it a little bit, and then I step back a little bit and I break it down a little bit, and then after that, I realized that the movie was far better than I gave it credit for when I left the theater. And like you said, like the Eternals before it, much of a setup, and it was really damn good. I'm not gonna lie, it was really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was one of those things where your initial reaction to me was essentially along the lines of, for some reason I can't find the actual your quote, but
I know I was the same way with Gary and Jimmy. I was like, it was good, but it was kind of a letdown, is what I told them.
Yeah. And then now to hear
Jesse said it best. Jesse
Salt
said
loves
it
to
best.
hate. Well, that's fair. For me, I thought it exceeded my expectations. I felt that going in again, I had kind of tempered a little bit. I didn't dislike very much. I was very happy with a lot of the different ways in which they went about establishing certain things. I thought they did a great job of really driving home something that they had set up in several other times that maybe went under the radar with me, but it just really drove home this concept that comic book nerds, this is not the 616. Right. So the comic book universe that you're reading is not what you're going to see on the MCU. And they did a very good job, I think, of driving home with several different points in the movie of making you identify, oh, hey, this is similar, but this is not what I'm reading. So I can step back for a second, let my nerd rage down,
Yep,
and allow myself to enjoy this property for what it is and not go, that's not what happens in the comics. Right.
Yep. Exactly. It allows you to not be a hater and be like you said, that's not how it is in the comic, and just let you enjoy the show for being an entertaining movie.
Yeah, and I think we've done that with little things in some of the other movies as well, obviously, but I just felt that in this movie there were multiple points that hit on that enough that just really drove home. So the rest of the way through, we can come into this and just enjoy the movies without having to necessarily go, well, oh, this wasn't in the movie. This wasn't in the comics. This wasn't in the comics, and you can allow that, which is going to be very good. Also, I thought that the action overall, I was nervous. Most, not just Spider-Man movies, but superhero movies, when we get into these trilogies and whatnot, we tend to seem to like feel the need to have to ramp up the level of threat over and over and over, right? And
Yep.
we do that just by adding more and more villains. at this thing. And I just saw it initially in all the trailers. I'm going, oh, here we go again. But I felt that they managed to do it in a balanced enough way that it didn't seem overwhelming. It was okay. There's challenges. You can see, yes, that there's time. He's got enough help, do what he's got to do from friends and everybody. But you know what? It's not just, and because these were characters that had been introduced previously, we just needed to give some backstory, some only minor backstory, and we just went into it with the assumption of, look, you're comic book nerds that are watching these movies. You've seen this. You know who these guys are. And if you don't, and if you're a person that you brought with you to the theater doesn't know, bring them up to speed.
Yep. And like you said, they had characters that everybody was already used to and knew about, so they didn't have to give the big backstory on all those characters. Like would have been beneficial with like in the Eternals, say, a little bit more character build up. It wasn't needed in this movie, which I thought was great.
No. Any dislikes?
Jesse's just like Jesse said, Slot loves to hate, and I really want to have a really big dislike, and I'm trying really hard to think of one, but the biggest dislike was Sony at the beginning of the movie.
I'm going to pause before I answer my own question here and remind everybody in the chat, thank you all for joining us. This portion of the show is our spoiler-free discussion portion of the show. So for those of you guys in the chat as well, again, please respect everybody and not do any spoilers like this one here that Chip dropped his popcorn on the floor. I now can't see it again because I'm just going to know partway through the movie that popcorn could fall.
3-second rule.
Yeah, respect. How much popcorn can you pick up in 3 seconds? Or would you really want to in the theater on the floor? No. So anyways, so spoiler-free portion of the show, you'll see the background change and we'll sound the klaxon before we go in any spoilers. So just so you guys are all on page. And I want to thank everybody, Jack B, never could figure it out, Taylor, Chip, Jimmy, who else has joined since then? Everybody who's joined in, Super Jesse, Beef It from New Zealand, everybody who's joined us along the way here, we appreciate it. Don't forget, if you like the show, please hit the thumbs up button while we're going. Anyways, for me, dislikes, I don't know. Every time I thought I was going to start to dislike something, there was enough of a reason for it that came back up, that was expounded upon, that made me feel that it was okay, and I didn't dislike anything necessarily.
Marty.
Yeah. Let's see till it's free on Disney. Yeah.
Disney gets enough of my money. I agree.
It's plenty. Yeah, it's nice to get out to the theater for a bit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I'm really hard pressed for it. But switching it up into the likes. I mean, there were a lot of things I did. I liked the way that they never necessarily, made it, they were playing with the romance of MJ and Peter, but never made it about necessarily getting into the making out and all this other stuff. They always start to tease something, and something would come in for comedic value to break that up. And I loved the concept that Doctor Strange was affected by the blip himself. And okay, minor spoiler, cover your ears. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme. That's it.
And actually, the villains at the beginning of the movie aren't even the big conflict that Spider-Man has.
Right. So, I mean, it did a great job working to establish morality that is the cornerstone of Spider-Man. It did a great job, I think, like I said, of establishing that this wasn't the 616, yet at the same time tying a lot of different elements together that have been established throughout this. And at the very end, when or towards the end, when we're starting to deal with the this multiverse scenario, I loved looking up into the constellations that we were seeing in the stars and seeing obvious, like, there's a scorpion, there's
Rhino.
rhino, here's Craven the Hunter, here's
Yep.
all these different things that were teasing in this type of thing. I thought that was really kind of cool.
Yeah, it was way cool. A lot of people probably didn't notice that either, unless you're a big Spider-Man fan. And also, I mean, like you said at the end, Spider-Man is always that hero that has a rough life. Let's be honest. He just has a damn rough life, and in this
Dude
movie,
is
it's pretty apparent he has a rough life.
dude has I mean, that's the thing, is like, as a Spider-Man fan, you're always rooting for him to get a little piece of love, and
A,
as
a
soon as he's,
win.
yeah, and as for every win, there's something that one step forward, two steps back, it seems, and you get that in this movie,
For sure.
just like every other Spider-Man movie or any other Spider-Man story that's been out there. You thought my popcorn was a spoiler? Yeah. There's stars in the movie. Yep, that's right. There's our stars in the sky in the movie.
In the sky in the movie.
We're crazy with ruining this film for everyone.
So if you've never been outside at night, looked up and seen stars, spoiler.
Hey, watch out. He shoots webs. So, pacing. How'd you feel throughout the whole movie? Did we do any hammocks? Did we just full bore? What'd you think?
No, even from the beginning, it was like, you ever could figure out, said it was slow at the start, and it was kind of slow, but it wasn't so slow where you were like, man, I just can't wait till this part gets over and it moves on. It kept me enticed enough to not feel like it was slow, but it was maybe a little slow at the start, but not much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it did a good job of keeping that throttle up and down. It didn't stay constantly on the gas. It didn't get too much of a lull. It kept it would accelerate for a bit, then slow down to let you recover a bit and get and go. And that's back in the day when I took film courses and stuff. That was one of the things that they would talk about and try to drive on this concept of not going full bore, but kind of doing these little start stop with the pacing, changing up, keep your audience engaged and whatnot. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there were some times where it is a comic book at the end of the day property, and jokes are placed in where you thought maybe there could be a little bit more emotional resonance. I could see that. At the same time, I could see where somebody may not care for that. And at the same time, I could see where other people would say that's what I love about a comic book movie.
That's
right?
also Spider-Man. Let's be honest. While he's kicking someone's butt, he's making fun of them.
I
making
thought that
jokes.
was probably the one thing that was lacking the most. I mean, there was elements of it, but
not much.
Not as I think the wisecracking was, and now I'm trying to think. It was Tom Holland. Has Tom Holland been a wisecracking Spider-Man throughout the? I'm trying to remember. I can't recall. I mean, sure, he's dropped some here and there.
Yeah, but not
like the 616 Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's not the 616. So just
True
because
story.
in the comic he's witty and funny and makes jokes as he whoops you, doesn't mean he has to in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and, unless there's anything else here, I think it's probably time to start to sound the klaxon, right? And start to say, hey guys, we're going to start the spoiler discussion portion of this show segment as we've reached past the halfway mark. So at this point in time, consider this your warning. If you've not seen the movie and you do not want spoilers, please come back and watch this after you've seen it on the rewind. We appreciate you stopping by. Thank you very much. Having said that, we'll give them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's talk some spoilers now. So for you, what do you think? What was the single biggest thing that jumped out at you that you just loved the most, regardless whether it's a spoiler or not?
Charlie Cox is in the MCU. Daredevil. That was like I told you earlier in pre-thing. You know how like when you see something you're excited, you hit your friend. I wanted to do that to Jesse, but I can't hit your wife, can't hit a girl. So I was like, it's Charlie Cox. I was like, yes. Yeah, that scene made the movie great.
I mean, it was very fun, and probably one of the greatest lines of the entire movie being that I'm a great lawyer, or I'm a really good lawyer.
I'm a really great lawyer. Yeah.
When that rock comes or brick comes through the window, right, and he just catches that out of nowhere. It was funny.
Before Spider-Man.
Before Spider-Man even reacts, is boom, I've got the brick. Oh, I'm a really good lawyer, right? It definitely gave you like a semi, without a doubt. I thought, I also really dug the reference. The one thing I've always disliked is Spider-Man always taking off their masks throughout the movie when facing other people. But I love he takes it off one way, and the guy goes, "Oh, you're a boy from Queens, and always helping the poor and everybody else." I just thought you'd be black. Maybe out there somewhere out there, there's a black Spider-Man, right? I thought that was kind of a nice little homage
to Miles.
Yeah. So that was really kind of cool. But I tell you, I don't think there was much that I read on the spoiler predictions going into this movie all the way to a year ago that didn't come true in this movie. Yeah. I mean, from all the predictions of the 3 Spider-Men to the villains to Daredevil to just about anything else.
And they brought, I was even talking with Jesse about this. A post from Sandman. I'm pretty sure like every actor was the exact same actor. You don't really see Sandman.
It was the same actor.
What? Okay, because you don't really see him in that movie until the very end.
It's the voice, yeah. It's Hayden Christensen, or not whatever his name is. But yeah, go ahead.
It was great that they did that, because usually whenever you replace someone and they bring a different actor in, that kind of brings the movie down.
Thomas Hayden Christensen.
There you go. Yeah, I was happy they did that, and it was dang near the Sinister Six, right? And
it was kind of like a variation on, right?
Yes.
And all the villains uniquely though were ones that came in from the multiverse, right? So none of the villains that we cropped up that we had to deal with were ones from the current universe that we were within, right? That knew who Peter Parker was. So the Vulture, who knows who Peter Parker was, we didn't deal with it. He didn't, I guess because he's in jail, so he didn't have to show up with any of this stuff. So
that is true.
Oh yeah,
Chip.
This was
But I think they hinted to him becoming a villain in the future when Ned turns to Peter and says, "Don't worry, I won't become a supervillain and kill you." You know what I mean?
I don't know. It could. So I think that it could be teased either way, right? Because I think up to that point where him knowing who Peter is, he very well could be true, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to be," and you could go again. This is one of the things where that happened in that universe doesn't mean it's going to happen in this universe, but yet acknowledging things from the comic books could occur in the different universes that didn't happen here. But at the same time, now that he doesn't know who Peter is, and I honestly thought at the end, and I'm glad they didn't, I kind of thought that they were going to have like the MJ Ned were in a relationship type of thing. Instead, they're still friends when Peter walks away from that. And that's heartbreaking to me. Again, I'm all fucking goddamn new day. Fucking take Mary Jane away from Peter Parker.
Yet again, you got robbed of Mary Jane and Peter Parker's relationship, Rob.
I know exactly. Lecter shouldn't have been pulled in. I didn't know who Petey was. Okay.
Electro getting the arc reactor was a pretty cool twist, didn't you think?
Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, they could do the whole thing where Ned's in love with MJ, and if they kind of reconnect, and then he kind of goes mad type thing instead of other stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's things there, but I mean, I think like I said, we did a great job establishing stuff with here. I mean, that hey, Tom Holland, it's not Uncle Ben that utters the infamous catchphrase that drives everything of great responsibility comes, or great power comes great responsibility, but instead we have it being
Aunt May.
Martha. No, not Martha. Aunt May. Martha. Why did you say that name? So we get that moment where we say, okay, ooh, this delivers that impact, but it's the same level of impact, but it's different, and helps to establish that this is not the 616. This is something different but similar.
Yep.
The rules don't always apply.
Just like Flash Thompson. The Flash Thompson in this movie is nothing like the one in the comic book.
Oh God, no!
I mean, he's like complete opposite.
He's getting into MIT. What the hell is up with that? I'm like, and this could be cool though now. So if since we're in the spoiler section here, we've talked about before the show. We were talking about that mid-credit scene, right, where we have Eddie Brock and Venom there. What if here, instead of an Eddie Brock, we get the Flash Thompson Venom?
The smart MIT Venom. That's what I was thinking too. A complete, because when we were talking that because is that what they did? They give you an option to give us instead of Tom I can't think of his name now. The other guy that plays Venom, a completely different actor and a completely different style of Venom, which would be great.
I'd love to see an Agent Venom.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't it be cool? Because, we have Morbius coming up, right? And then there's talks of maybe Blade coming into the MCU. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, later on they had, like, a Midnight Suns movie? Brought all those characters together?
Right. Well, I guess I'm in my own world here with the idea of Flash Thompson. I mean, granted, yeah, that actor is the way he's playing Flash Thompson is kind of douchey as opposed to the bully jock, right? He's just like a needy little rich snob kid, but whatever.
We're all going to MIT. Oh, you're not? Oh, sorry.
Bounce.
Yep.
I'm out of here, yo. But yeah, no, you're right. It's always about redemption, right? And I love Doc Ock's story in this movie. I thought it was so great getting to see Doc Ock come in and go through the whole process of starting off as the bad guy and the thing we know, and finding out that it's these tentacles that are controlling him and fixing him, and then he's on board and he's coming in and helping out everything and helping to save day, and the redemptive story, everything on that. I thought that was a great arc for Doc Ock there, and something that, of course, we would never see. Yeah, Ned becomes Kindred just to piss Rob off. Well, no, maybe Ned will become a clone. And
a clone, there you go.
Yeah, that'll piss me off even more.
The Clone Wars will be the next Spider-Man.
It'll be maximum Kindred clones. Yes. Let's see. How did Venom get pulled in before the spell? I don't know that he got pulled in before the spell, but we see that, like, during this thing, he's been there, and then he gets kind of expelled when the new spell gets cast. But how did he come in to begin with? I don't know, since everything seemed to be only people who knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker, or Peter Parker was Spider-Man? Yeah. Spider-Man. I guess that's the Flash's new identity, Spider-Man. Anyways, so Venom coming in did seem a little bit odd. I think it was just a Sony saying, we want to tie it together. Of course, I haven't seen the Venom movies. I keep saying I'm going to, but then I keep reading reviews on them.
Just watch them. Force yourself to. I mean, It's better than a kick in the face with a golf shoe. I promise you that.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Chameleon good. Let's see some Doom. Let's see.
Yes,
Yeah,
Doom is the best villain.
yeah. The Hobgoblin could be good. I mean, we talked about Ned a little bit on there. It is kind of good because I like to also. Hey, look, we established that there isn't a Green Goblin here in this universe, right? Oscorp doesn't exist in this universe, and that's kind of cool because I'm a little bit done with Green Goblin for now. There are so many other rogues. It's much like seeing the Joker in a Batman movie at this point. As much as he's got so much to offer, it's like there's so many others I'd like to see come
Killer
into there and
Croc.
be
Yeah,
and
there's
be
so
done
many.
and be done well, right?
Yes.
And so that's where I think that it could be great to see some others potentially and Spider-Man has a deep rogues gallery, right? I mean, it's
Craven the Hunter would be a great one in the movies, like in the
well,
big screen.
and there's been rumors of that, right? So definitely, let's see what do we got. Taylor says they don't state when Venom got pulled in. He could have just been pulled in and got drunk instead of hunting down Spider-Man. True. Waiting for Rob to leave long enough to see him become the villain. I could very well could be. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. You did see the movie last night. Excellent. So not a problem. Well, great. But we got into that part of the movie. So I don't know. Final thoughts as we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, as we like to keep these things short and concise.
I thought it was great. Again, I mean, I'll probably watch it again. It was so good. Like when it comes, to buy or rent, I'll buy it for sure. It's one of those movies I thought was that good. The second mid the credit scene, at first I was like, yeah, that was kind of a trailer, but it was a trailer, and it was a trailer that brought a lot of things together, like you were saying, with the what if evil Doctor Strange, just all that stuff. That last Wanda from WandaVision, it was really good.
I'm really intrigued now, actually, to see where there's so many different elements that have been dropped right now that seem like they could tie into bigger things, right? We have definitely we have something that's going on out in space on the galactic scale that we're going to tie in with Eternals and Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor and all this stuff. And then we got something that's very earth-based here that's kind of going on with not only the multiverse, but now we're starting to establish the
Defenders.
We're starting to establish the guys from the Defenders that we've had. We're bringing in Kingpin, and we're showing how he's tied into all this. And obviously, Kingpin plays heavily into Spider-Man lore as much as he does in the Daredevil lore.
Yes, he
and
does.
Would love to see some future connection. Could potentially the next movie be a focused team up of Spider-Man and Daredevil?
How good would that be?
Oh God, God. And then as they're fighting
Hallelujah.
with Kingpin, as they're dealing with Kingpin, and then maybe at the end of it we drop in the Punisher.
Oh, now you're
I'm just gonna get you fully aroused now, Jesse. You're gonna have to take care of Slot now. Sorry.
Yeah, now you're talking my kind of Spider-Man, Daredevil and Punisher. Come on now.
I mean, that writes itself practically. I mean, Louis on board. He knows that would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, he'll show up in She-Hulk probably. Absolutely, we can bring that all in there. Yeah, he's going to stay grounded in street level route, especially now that he's not known. He doesn't need to be with the Avengers, and that's the great thing. He can step back from that. Happy doesn't know who he is. It's just insane, that potential that we can have that be Peter can function as Spider-Man. We can get him tied to a bunch of these street level heroes and have something that goes on that's completely separate from these big global or intergalactic things that go on, and then bring them all together if need be when the time comes.
Yes, Taylor. Can't be that new Punisher logo.
Yeah. Doctor Strange was very depowered. I can't even stop a high school dropout in Peter. Okay. Well, he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme.
I thought it was hilarious too how Venom was making fun of like the Avenger names, like the Hulk and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, sorry, Lethal Protector does not sound so stupid now, does it?
Exactly right. And then of course what happens when they start bringing in mutants, and I mean there's just, you almost think that maybe there's too much to bring in and really have, I mean, you're going to have multiple big stories going on. Really, I don't think it makes sense to have everybody working to just one. When you're establishing these intergalactic things, you're the street level stuff, and then you're going to start to have stuff once you start to introduce the mutants into here. And of course, who knows? I mean, Fantastic Four fortunately can tie into any of that, although you assume that somewhere in there Doom gets involved. There may be a Galactus. Does Galactus tie in with the Eternals and everything else? And Silver Surfer, oh my goodness,
it's madness.
It is, yes, exactly. And we're just talking about trying to stay in one, and we already know that we're getting America Chavez. We saw that teaser in the end of it, where God, it is just, fellow nerds, I am excited.
Yes.
The potentials are high, and I love the fact that we basically just honestly said, driven home loud and clear in this movie, this is not the comic book 616. Anything goes. We can beg, borrow, and whatever from any of the properties, and it can feel comfortable and it can feel similar, but it doesn't have to be. But the comic book's not the Bible. I love it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that potentially. It's a good time to be a nerd, no doubt, dude. That is without a doubt. We've talked about that. There's the rumors going on with that. He was teased in the stars. Kraven, to me, was the first character I saw in the stars of the multiverse that jumped straight out at me, and I was like, oh wow.
Yep, him and the Rhino for me.
Yeah. For me, it was him and Scorpion. So definitely very cool. Potentially, I don't know if we need him just yet. Like I said, I really want to see Spider-Man start to deal with Daredevil and having to deal with or Daredevil and Kingpin teaming up or something. I would love to see that, I think, first before I get into Kraven, or maybe introduce Kraven at the end of that or something. But yeah, I mean, Kraven is so good. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, we could just go round and round in circles on it. This is some great stuff. We got so many points that we can jump into, and we barely even talked about the other Spider-Men who showed up.
Yeah, right?
I mean, Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they looked much better in those suits than they had a right to this many years after having been in those roles, because those suits do not leave much to the imagination at all, especially if you're a DJ right now. Nothing to the imagination.
It also gives you a perspective of how much better, in my opinion, Tom Holland is as Peter Parker as the other two, because as they are good as Peter Parker until Tobey Maguire went all dancing back in the 70s style in that one scene. But yeah, Tom Holland is the far superior Spider-Man in my opinion.
But I got a lot of respect out of Andrew Garfield for this one. I mean, I used to think of him as the weaker one, but I came up with some new respect for that. And Toby was, I agree, Jack. Seeing Toby put a smile on her face, and I loved the redemption for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, being able to come in to save MJ at the end. So he saved the girl at the end, right? And not as opposed to losing it. And I loved how much they got, queasy talking about Toby's spinnerets, right? It's like, and establishing that there was no Avengers in in either of their universes, right? Again,
Right.
creating this separation which makes you believe that these are true multiverse, which is different per se than time deviants that have been established in Loki. The multiverse could be related to that, but it seems like that it's a completely independent multiverse.
They forgot the best one though. They forgot out Spider Pig.
Well,
Spider Ham.
They didn't, right? They didn't tease us with a Spider Gwen. They didn't tease us. I mean, that would have been funny to watch how Andrew Garfield would have reacted to that or anything else, right? But
Right.
I mean, I think I think if you were going to bring in any other Spider-Man into there, it would have been to bring in a Miles introduction, type of thing. Or let's just go with Miguel O'Hara.
2099.
Yeah,
I was
of
gonna
course.
say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I got to go with my man Miguel. Anyways, oh my God, so much. What do you say here? There's really not much more he could have done for us. So yeah, I mean, I without going to a 3+ hour movie, I agree. I think the pacing was. I think it just went just long enough. So good. So happy they included Toby and Garfield. Indeed, a worst kept secret in the history of film, but still great that they were able to do that. Miles already exists in the MCU. Okay. Did we meet somebody named Miles at some point? I don't remember. I'm assuming so. Chris would know if he's bringing it up.
Yes.
So the kind of story, colors.
Yes, the colors were great on that last suit.
Yeah. So I mean, it was all good. Seeing the live action spider rope webbing and yeah, maybe. Oh, we met the Prowler. Okay. Did we get it would have been nice. Maybe we should have brought in the Electric Company Spider-Man in this one. He could have taught us all to read at the end. All right. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in and spending this time with us. We could sit here and go on for another 15-20 minutes, but we're not going to. Let's go bring it on home here. Slot, do you have anything coming up in the next? I know we got Christmas coming up here. Another Slotmas, or we got other stuff going? No,
not a whole lot. No, just
not
the
much.
holidays.
The hollandaise sauce.
The hollandaise sauce. That sounds good, actually. Some eggs Benedict. Somehow I always end up getting hungry when I talk to Rob.
This week I have no or tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. I lost track which day it is. I'll be Thursday. I'll be dropping a video in AOK from Scott from Hoarder's Hide. Saturday, apparently I'm doing a Son of SlabHub. We'll be dropping. It'll be a really short one into a Monday mail call. So the usual stuff. We'll be back though very shortly in just 2 weeks. The first and third Tuesday of the month we do this. Our next show we will be revisiting Hawkeye now that by then it will have completed. We'll be talking about that, as well as we will probably, since we've already discussed the first half of it, I think that we'll make some time to discuss that first episode of the Book of Boba. I think that'll definitely have to be squeezed in there.
Yes, I'm so excited for that.
Yes. Tingly. Again,
yeah.
Back to what DJ said. It's a great time to be a nerd.
Absolutely.
All right, kids. Everybody, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Blessed Yule, anything far in between that I may have left out. To you and your families, all please stay safe. A Book of Boba starts right the week following Christmas, so right before the new year. So until next time, guys, make sure you collect what you want. Don't listen to me or anyone else for that matter, because I'm just a fat man with a fat stack of comics and a fat opinion. Thanks for watching.